Hola, bonjour! This is Dr. Liraz with another exciting episode. Here at Little Neurons, our mission is to bring you the latest neuroscience tools to help your child reach their fullest developmental potential. Today we will explore a timely and fascinating topic, the bilingual child's brain. We are living in a truly international world, filled with culture and rich language. As confirmed by the 2022 United States demographic surveys revealing that 26% of 5 to 17-year-olds are multilingual. This video will cover the 5 scientifically proven cognitive benefits of learning the language in young children. We will debunk common child myths, including when do you introduce a second language to a baby? Does bilingualism make our children smarter? And does it cause developmental delays? Tune in to find out the answers to this and so much more as we unravel the mysteries of language learning in children. Did you know that babies are language experts? They come into the world with a remarkable ability to learn any one of its 7,000 languages. Without taking a single class, babies can master any language depending on the environment where they are raised. So how is this possible? The baby has evolved a mechanism that is called neuronal commitment, which is where brain real estate is dedicated to that primary language while obstructing the learning of anything else that impairs the primary language pathways. So if you picked into the child's brain during that first year of life, you will see that the brain circuits are strengthened for that primary language in the environment, while brain circuits for anything else that the baby doesn't hear, any other language, will be trimmed and pruned away. So the goal then, from evolutionary perspective, is to maximize the baby's chances of survival. In cute and cuddly experiments, the scientists discovered that babies' brains are specialized to detect particular patterns in language. And this means that, for example, 2 very similar languages, Spanish and French, a baby will be able to differentiate between both. So when we as adults in life learn a foreign language, what happens is we must fit all the sounds of this foreign language inside the pre-existing framework of English that we have learned. And so it's a much more challenging task to do for us adults, which is why it makes more sense from a neurodevelopmental perspective to teach your child a language early on. Let's take a deep dive into the neuroanatomy of language. So first, we need to understand where language is located in the brain, because structure dictates function. The brain is a true mosaic of interconnected pathways working together to generate the complexities of language. So let's simplify and use a symphony orchestra example. So in a world-class symphony orchestra, you have the different sections of instruments. There's a wind section for the oboe, the flute, and the clarinet. Then you have the string section with violin, cello, and harps. And then you might have the percussion section with drums, xylophones, and tambourines. Now, they are all playing together in perfect harmony to create these beautiful masterpieces for audiences to enjoy. Applying this same conceptual framework, we can look at language in a similar way. So due to the language vocabulary, rich syntax, and grammar rules, it can take years to master for children. So now we will take a closer look at the brain structures that mediate language. As I speak these very words, the sound enters through your ears inside here to the auditory cortex. And this is the temporal lobe. Now, there's an area here called the Wernicke's area in blue, and this is where the language comprehension happens, allowing you to process what I am saying. This area projects then connections to the Broca's area in blue again here, and this is the area for motor speech. So this allows you to then, after you process what it is that is being said, now you can respond to me and articulate and express yourself with Broca's area. And so the brain has also evolved something very interesting, a place here called the angular gyrus. This is our sensory integration. So words are in your brain processed with different images. They're associated with different images and sensations and also ideas. So what happens is if I say the word lemon, what images come to your mind? Maybe something yellow or a sour taste. And this is exactly what the angular gyrus does, and it means it's working. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the fun part. How does the brain process language and math? Animals speaking English or performing math equations, that only exists in Hollywood in movies like Dr. Dolittle. This is because language comprehension and arithmetic are uniquely human functions. For example, we process words and numbers in common pathways, as you can see here in the posterior parietal lobe and also in the prefrontal cortex areas. But these two functions differ in terms of brain activity and their location. So now we know that most of language processing, as I've just indicated, occurs on the left temporal lobe of the brain. And math, though, is more widespread. We know now that it is located in the frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital lobes of the brain. So in an interesting study, this is fairly new in 2021, this study wanted to know how people process in a selective attention task, how they process language and arithmetic. And so this task is very interesting because it was mimicking a party scenario. It's called a cocktail party. So when you go to a cocktail party, you have a room full of people engaged in conversation, and your brain has to zero in on that one particular conversation that you're having right now and block out all the other noise. This is a selective attention task. So in this particular study, 22 adults were placed in a scanner for their brains to be imaged. At the same time, the researchers played for them simultaneously sentences of language, very simple ones. Something like, cats love warm milk. And at the same time, the brain also heard arithmetic equations like 1 + 5 = 6. And so experimenters found, is super fascinating, is that the neural processing for words as indicated by those sentences and also for the symbols as the brain saw through these heard through the arithmetic equations, both of those things are processed in the auditory cortex. Pretty cool, huh? Now let's look at the evidence. Does learning a second language make our children smarter? You want a smart and talented child. I get it. We now know that intelligence is a mixture between your child's genetic code and environmental experiences. And while we can't change the genetic material your child is born with, we can use neuroscience tools to help foster that learning in the brain and create experiences to build that higher level of intelligence. Now, one of these tools is learning a language. Research findings show that when you take children of multiple age groups and you look at evidence from around the world, there is a bilingual advantage. Here, we will take you through and show you that researchers have pinpointed to 5 major brain gains during early childhood when you introduce a second language to a kid. Now, let's jump right in and discover what these are. A benefit to learning another language for a young child is executive function. This refers to the higher order cognitive processing that is involved in things like thinking, planning, strategizing. Okay guys, now we're getting real. So when you go to the gym and you lift weights, let's say you're working on your biceps today, what's happening is you're activating and recruiting muscle fibers, like I'm doing right now, which over time will build stronger biceps. Bilingual children do the same thing. What happens is they're using 2 different linguistic systems, let's say English and French, and each system has their own grammar lexicons, rules, and different sounds. This creates a total brain workout. And so these brains of these bilingual children are wonderful. They switch regularly back and forth, learning one or speaking one language while inhibiting another. And this cross-activation in the brain across multiple regions creates this higher function, executive function in the brain. And for this reason, bilingual children are superb at other cognitive skills. They excel in nonverbal tasks, also in working memory and attention control. Another major benefit to learning a second language is cognitive flexibility. It is an evolutionary fact. Humans are adaptable and they need to adapt in order to survive. This is where cognitive flexibility fits in. Have you ever gone to a birthday party and you have seen the birthday child eager to eat that big dinosaur cake that they have selected, but they're sitting there waiting patiently until all the children settle down, sing the birthday song, and then mom cuts into the cake? This is inhibitory control in its finest. And what it means, it's the ability to control those natural impulses and prevents the child from literally gulping down that big T-Rex's dinosaur's head. Another part of cognitive flexibility is problem solving. So in my hand, I'm holding a Rubik's Cube. This is a fun traditional game that children play, and we call this a brain puzzle, in fact. So what it is, as you can see, this cube is divided to different blocks, and each block represents a color. Now the child has to rotate the cube in order to have all the colors on one side, one face of the cube. Now imagine that for these bilingual children, and this, by the way, is a super difficult task, takes a lot of cognitive control, creativity, troubleshooting. But for the bilingual child, what if now we said we are going to reverse this task? This is called rule reversal. We will ask the child to take this cube, and instead of match each color to a face of the cube, we will now have the child figure out how to stagger the colors, let's say, in a row. And this is something that children excel at because it requires a huge amount of originality, creativity, and flexibility in the brain. The third major brain gain for bilingual children is an extended language window. So we know that there's a sensitive period for language in the brain. This is a prime time where the child's brain can master a new language and sound like a native speaker while doing it. This time period occurs between the ages of 0 to 12 years old. In bilingual children, we know now that the language window is extended. And what it means is that it remains open for a longer period of time to allow the brain to absorb 2 languages, even 3. So this is in comparison to the monolingual child, which have shorter time frames. And so now I would like to jump in and tell you a fun little story. When I was 12 years old, I came into the United States and I began to learn English. Now my sisters, I was 12, but my sisters, one of them was 4 years old and the other was 8 years old. We all started at the same school system in the south of the United States, learning English together. But as you can hear, I still have an accent, while my sisters don't. So how could this be that we all grew up in the same household, speaking our same native language, to the same parents, and I have an accent while they don't? The answer lies within this language window. What happened is when I was 12 years old, my language window closed, and we know now that when puberty hits, the language window starts to close and your ability to sound like a native speaker diminishes. And so I never achieved this mastery of the English language with a Southern Belle accent as my sisters have. Another fascinating bilingual advantage is the theory of mind. Once believed to be uniquely human, this psychological concept illustrates the fact that there's an ability for humans to tune into somebody else's thoughts and feelings. So my puppy Daisy here is illustrating this fact. Dogs have been found to have a remarkable ability to read someone's thoughts and feelings to a lesser extent. And in fact, There is a very fascinating publication in the prestigious journal of PNAS saying that researchers find apes, birds, and certain species of dogs can do this, of course, to a lesser form than humans. Bilingual children are better at deciphering another person's mental state, their behaviors, their feelings, emotions, thoughts, and even subtle cues in their communications that can help them along the way, such as a change in a tone of voice. And they do this much more efficiently than monolingual. And finally, we have increased creativity. Bilingual children grow up in richer environments. They have households speaking 2 different languages with 2 different vocabulary sets and rich wisdom and diversity of culture. And so this is why it's been shown in studies that they have increased originality. Bilingual children excel at thinking outside of the box and being extremely creative. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the part that you have all been waiting for, debunking children myths in terms of language. There are so many misconceptions out there about teaching your child a second language. And I will now take you through some of the more popular ones. Introducing a second language to a child too early will confuse your child and the languages will start then to mix. Well, your child is more resourceful and creative than you give them credit for. You see, it's like monkey see, monkey do. They like to mimic us adults in the home and their community. In scientific circles, we call this code mixing, and it's a completely normal part of a bilingual child's development. It simply means that it's a mixing of a child's native language with the common language spoken in the community, and it's something that we naturally do as adults. Since young bilingual children have limited vocabularies, no different than monolingual kids, they are using all of the tools in their linguistic toolbox. The second common misconception is that it's best for each person to speak only one language with a bilingual child. Oh, this is last century thinking. Nearly 100 years ago, it was believed that a child will associate one adult with one language as a mechanism to prevent confusion and intellectual fatigue. Yet, we have no evidence for these claims. Countless of studies in bilingual infants have shown that they can clearly distinguish their own language from other similar ones. And in fact, experts now recommend to place a greater focus on the child's minority or native language rather than the majority language spoken outside of the home. And this will give the children many opportunities to play with other kids in their native language. Oh, this is a really good one. Number 3. Is earlier better for language learning? Yes, absolutely. The ability to learn a second language like a pro comes with an expiration date. It declines with age as the sensitive period for language acquisition closes around the time of puberty. The baby language advantage is real, and young children discover language, we know now, from the ground up, which means they're experimenting, taking linguistic risks, and making lots of mistakes without caring too much. Think about an infant's environment. It is much more conducive to language learning earlier in life with the caregivers articulating and slowing down their words when speaking to the young child. It's a much more effective way to master a new language than time spent inside the classroom, don't you think? And lastly, we have a claim that bilingual children are at risk for language delays. Oh, this is complete nonsense. It is one of the greatest illusions. While bilingual children typically know fewer words in each of their languages than do monolingual learners, these differences will disappear when you calculate the bilingual child's conceptual vocabulary across both languages. Bilingual children know approximately the same number of words as monolingual children. We hope that you enjoyed this video on the bilingual advantage. The powerful evidence presented here about the bilingual child will give them an added cognitive boost in their development and beyond. This will increase their ability to focus, be flexible, socially sharp, and creative. So what are you waiting for? Get excited. Teach your child a second or even a third language. No matter which language you may choose to speak at your home or is spoken in the community, know that we can celebrate the diversity, embrace the long-term brain gains, and the tremendous potential that a second language can bring to expand the young mind and create a better and brighter future for all. Until we meet again, wishing you and your child a beautiful developmental journey, and I will see you on the next video.